Hello, everyone, and welcome for joining us. We are having a beautiful talk this morning with Aly Canavan, but first of all, let's illuminate the call. Hello, and let's see if I can get my words and my thoughts back together again. I've had 4 big days at the Mind, Body, Spirit Festival speaking, and I've just got to reattach them because I'm quite tired. But this is going to inspire me. We are talking today with Aly Canavan, transformational coach, speaker, mindfulness specialist, and very, very, very good friend of mine. I love conversations with Aly. She's just such a really special person. And today we're going to talk about words as wands, which I think is something that is a very practical tip for us living a very empowered life. Hello, Aly. Thank you for joining us again.
You're so welcome. It's so good to be here. Listen, I 100% hear you. I have done so many festivals, like 3-4 day festivals. And at the end, there is nothing like the tiredness after doing a festival. It's not just the talking, it's the being at the stand, but it's so exciting. And it's so energizing, but when it's done, it's like the big come down, right? You're like, oh, and you just need to rest. But yeah, I do love doing those events as well. So thank you so much for having me.
No, you're welcome. It's really great to have you here because I think words are so important. And in my work, I see how we've corrupted so many words and how we use words without even thinking about them. And they're putting out ideas into the universe that we might not want to be saying. And even the way we talk to our kids, like being more conscious. But you're going to tell us all about this and give us some practical tips. So I'm really excited because I think this is something that is a strategy that we can change right now. And so it's very, very powerful.
Yeah, I mean, for years, I've been fascinated with the power of language, right? How we speak to ourselves. You know, I started modeling when I was 15. I spent over 20 years in the fashion industry. And as I began to move out of the fashion industry and into the world of personal development, it really became, I became so aware of how horrible I was to myself. And also how horrible other girls were to themselves, right? Like when we were at castings or when we were on trips or when we were on catalog trips, it's very rare you saw someone who went, oh my God, I look amazing. This dress is fabulous on me. It was usually like, do I look fat? My skin, I look so old. Oh my gosh. Like we're constantly tearing ourselves down. We're constantly nitpicking with ourselves. And we're not just doing it with ourselves. We're doing it with other people and the world as well. So we're doing it kind of with everything in our life. And everything is energy. And I say this all the time. And we talk about this so much, Lisa. Everything in this world is energy. It's different spectrums. We have kind of spiritual and matter, right? So spiritual, it's very high frequency. And it's kind of, as we move, it gets denser and denser and denser as we move down into matter. And matter is like the things that we physically see that look solid to us here, right? But everything's actually vibrating. Even if it appears as solid. So I'm fascinated by energy. I'm fascinated by how do we manage our energy during the day? Like I'm an energy coach as well, because it's never a time problem, it's an energy problem. That's what I always say to people. People say to me, I have no time. I'm like, it's never a time problem, it's an energy problem. It's where are you spending your time? And also when we're speaking, how we're speaking to ourselves, how we're speaking to other people, about other people, and how we're discussing our lives also either gives or takes energy from us, okay? So I have a workshop called Your Word is Your Wand, where I go through the power of language and I actually show people if you're saying this, say this instead. If you're doing this, do this instead. But the primary things it comes down to is awareness. That's the first thing that everything comes down to. Like I'm a mindfulness teacher and I'm always saying to people, awareness is the greatest agent for change. Without true awareness, nothing changes and nothing can happen because we have to, first of all, hold the intention to be willing to see our own personal blind spots. Like that's a big thing for people, to be actually willing to go, okay, I'm willing to see my blind spots. We're going to see things we don't like. We're going to see where we stand in our own way, but we're also going to see how we misuse language. And one of the things that I used to notice with myself, I stopped drinking 7 years ago, and I noticed I was uncomfortable at events, right? Now, I was probably always uncomfortable at events, but I had the little buffer of alcohol. And I noticed that even holding a glass of wine in my hand gave me the courage, the confidence I needed to stand with strangers, right? Take that away, and what happens is I call mind the gap or fill the gap. And what I noticed is, oh, I don't have this, crutch for confidence. And I found myself filling the gap. Every time there was a gap, I was filling it. And I was usually filling it with something that really was, a story about myself that wasn't actually great, or something that like halfway through the story, I'd be like, okay, stop talking, stop telling me. Stop. And it's like, there's different stages of awareness. I often say to my clients, you'll tell the story, and then it's after the story you go, I can't believe I told that story again. I can't believe I did that again. And then you'll be in the middle of the story and go, oh my God, I'm doing it again. I'm in the story, right? So, and then you'll be able to stop yourself mid-story, and eventually you will not go into the story at all. But it's noticing, where do you fill the gap? Where do you fill the gap in your life, whether it be with family, whether it be with friends? And there's something very precious and powerful about listening, consciously listening and adding to a conversation. And this is something I play with. This is a lot of fun. It's like, I'm going to add to the conversation when I have something of value to say, not just because I want to interject to be seen or to be heard or to feel validated or for all those other reasons, right? So when we speak, think about the English language, spelling. So when we speak, we are casting a spell. Every single time we open our mouth, okay? We're constantly casting a spell. And that's what I find fascinating about our language, because we are creating our life moment by moment, choice by choice, with every word we speak. So this is where I say to people, get really clear on what you would love to create, because every time you open your mouth, you're creating. So are you talking down to yourself? Are you waking up in the morning and are you looking in the mirror and saying all the horrible things that are there? And are you talking bad about others? Are you moaning? Are you gossiping? Are you complaining all the time? Because then you're drawing more of that energy into you. And when I became acutely aware of language a good few years ago and started studying the English language, like words like decide, deciding for your future, like the word decide comes from the Latin root decidere, which means to cut away from. So when we decide for our future, it means that we cut away from things that no longer serve us, people, places, and things, right? So when we start getting into the whole world of language, we start to understand that these words actually hold far more power than we think. And then we look at the word responsibility. For someone, I'm in recovery. One of the first steps into recovery is taking personal responsibility, right? For the fact that I'm the reason I'm here. We can like point fingers at what happened in our childhood and what our mom and dad did, or what our uncles did, or what our sisters did, or what a boyfriend did. And we all have stories. I have a whole history of trauma. But it's not until we just come to a point where we're like, but I'm the one making the choices. Me. I'm a grown up now. I'm making the choices. So from here on in, I have to make the decision to move forward on a path of healing or a path of harming, right? So there are two choices that we have, healing or harming ourselves. And the word responsibility, if we break it down, response-ability is the ability to respond to your life. So that's what you're doing when you're taking responsibility. You're now saying, now I'm giving myself the chance to respond to my life and not react. So our words are so powerful. They can cause us to expand and grow and heal, or they can cause chaos and hurt and harm.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, I love so many things in that stood out for me. First of all, like when you said that the two directions that we go, and I think that all the time, because in any moment we're either choosing to move further away from ourselves and using the words that don't serve us, or we're moving further towards ourselves. And I think that's very true. In any moment, we're always making that choice, and we're not often conscious that the choice we're making is to come back and really connect with ourselves and be true to ourselves, or to move further away from ourselves. And I love how you've pointed out the words really help us do that. And one of the words that I really encourage change is the triggering word. Like, how many people, it's just everywhere. Are you triggered? I felt triggered. That triggered me. Like, trigger. Who wants to even do anything about something that triggers us? Like, it has a horrible, we want to avoid it. And really the healing comes when we embrace all of what's going on with us, and we integrate and we understand ourselves. And so using the word activated, I say activated, that person really activated me, because they activated me to see where I need to heal so that I can take back more empowerment in this moment. It's actually a great thing. It's a great thing.
That's so powerful. I'm really hearing that, because that is a word that's so overused at the moment. And what you are in that moment, you are activated. And thank you so much for sharing that, because that's so powerful.
Yeah.
Because think about slang. English language has been taken, and there's loads of slang. Like in Ireland, we say something called, like, it's supposed to be for it's awesome, and we say it's deadly.
Oh yeah, or sick, yeah.
Or it's, oh my God, look at her trainers, they're so sick. And it's interesting, like I'm always saying, when I get people to write vision statements when they work with me, and I get them to use positive language, and the vision statement always comes back with, I'm not medicated, or I'm not stressed, or I'm not worrying. I'm like, no, we want to be getting all of those words out. We want to be creating good feeling words, because if you're reading a statement with worry and stress and medication, your memory has that associated with a negative space to be in. Right? So you're immediately going to be, remember that words have frequency. All different words have different frequency. Like love has a very, very high vibrational frequency. And where we see this, if people want to actually see this in action, go to YouTube and look up Dr. Emoto. So, the EMOTO, if you look up all the work he's done with water and vibration and sound through his work. I actually have his children's book. And when I lived in Ireland, I'm in the US now, I used to do full day live events called the Full 360. And I would bring people in, and I'd be teaching them about sound and word and vibration. And we'd do sound baths and meditations. And I would play his video for them, because some people are auditory, some people are visual, some people are kinesthetic. We all learn differently. So a lot of people, when they saw the visuals of the lifelong work that man did, it's absolutely incredible. And what he did was he exposed words to different frequencies of sound. So he exposed them to like hate and evil, or gratitude and love. And then he froze the water and put it under the microscope. And the words that were like high vibrational, like love and joy and peace and gratitude, created, speaking of diamonds, the most beautiful structures. Like, when you get the most beautiful sacred geometric structures, like they were just perfect and just incredible. And when he exposed it to war, evil, hate, I hate you, I'm going to kill you, you have this it's like a bomb went off. There's no real structure. Wow. It looks very ugly. And they also did lots of experiments with prayer. And they took like water from the Fujiwara Dam, which was not, the structure of it was not good. And they exposed it to healing frequencies and, love and peace. And after a few days in prayer, it came back with these beautiful sacred geometric structures as well, so he spent his life doing that. And we are, which I'm always saying to people, we are at least 70% water. Depending on the age you're at, during our lives, we're between 70 and 85% water at any given time. So just think about that for a second. If water, if it changes its molecular structure from being exposed to a word, and we're speaking to ourselves negatively, what do you think that does to our frequency and our vibration? Now, to take that even a step further, we look at the effect of our emotional state on our DNA. Studies recently have been showing us that they did a study where they had a man in a room, and they took a piece of his DNA, and they figured out that his elevated emotional state instantly changed his DNA to the same state. Not after a while, instantly. So then they were like, I wonder with this work, they moved it to a different room, they moved it to a different city, I think they moved it to a different town in a different country. No matter where he was in the world, when his elevated emotional state changed, his DNA reacted instantly, no matter where he was. He didn't even have to be.
Wow.
And I actually shared that study on Facebook the other day, the link to it where people can go and see it. You can go onto my Facebook,
Wow.
Alison Canavan Official. I shared it on LinkedIn as well, because this is how exciting this work is. And I'm like, it's exciting if you choose it to be. If you're somebody that really wants to make a difference, if you're someone who has a deep desire to feel better, know that your next choice matters, right? So what we're seeing in the studies, it's like, it doesn't matter about everything up until now. People that come to me say, yeah, but all of the stuff, and they have stories about everything that's happened to now and the mess that they're in. And I'm like, but let's come up with a plan from here moving forward, from here moving forward, right? Because that's what's important. And to know that we can change our DNA with each thought, with each emotional state, to me is one of the most exciting developments that we've ever seen.
That's fantastic. Thanks for sharing that with me. And I think one of the things that I was sharing about on the weekend was how it, just asking people to consider when we think about our emotions, often we don't want to think about our emotions. Often we don't want to deal with them, or we find them too hard. We could resist them, but we do have a level of awareness that starts to grow. And I ask people, why is it that we think it's harder to deal with this emotion right now than to deal with it a few years down the track when it's actually developed into full-blown anxiety or full-blown panic attacks or depression? We don't make that connection, and really it's that changing our attitude around right now. And that research, it's like, hey, this is great evidence to encourage you right now to bring that awareness in and start to do things a little bit differently, because it's the little things, right? It's just start with little things every day that make a massive difference.
It's the little things done consistently. And I say to people, how you start your day is gold. You have to start your day the right way. Are you somebody who just wakes up and hopes they'll have a good day and stumbles out of bed and goes over to the coffee pot and, turns it on and just goes, another day? Well, then, there's a 50-50 chance that things might go okay. But living on purpose, with purpose, and consciously makes all the difference. Because let's go back to the fact that everything is energy. If you're not managing your own energy, if you're not the person driving your energetic frequency, somebody else is going to take the lead. Somebody else is going to take the wheel. I'm a HeartMath facilitator, and the studies, I teach about coherence, right? Which is also energy, and it's to do with the heart and mind connection. And coherence is basically when everything is turned on and working together. So think of it like a symphony orchestra when it's in beautiful harmony. Incoherence is like when the violin is out of tune and all the different musicians are coming in at the wrong time. You know that feeling when you're listening to music, it's like, stress, overwhelm, anxiety. But when we're stressed, there's parts of our system that turn off because they have to, because your system thinks you're in danger. So anything that's not immediately needed for survival shuts down. Your digestive system shuts down. Oh, everything is gone. The blood, everything to your brain, your prefrontal cortex, that's important for cognitive functions, emotional regulation, problem solving, all of these things are actually not available to you. That's why I always try and explain to people, when you're pushing and pushing and pushing and sitting in front of a computer for hours and you're stressed and overwhelmed, you're trying to do something that's literally impossible, because the parts of you that you need, especially the parts of your brain that you need to help you, are not even available to you. So we actually have to really get people to understand that we have to bring ourselves out of dysregulation into a place of safety, and everything then turns back on. And that's what coherence is. And connecting with your heart is very powerful, because the heart has an electrical magnetic frequency, an EMF field that stretches out about 6 feet from the body, if not more. And when we are in coherence, we naturally bring other people around us into coherence. So without saying a word. So our energy actually introduces us before we open our mouth. So people read our energetic signature. They read our frequency before we say a word. And let me tell you something. If your energetic signature doesn't match the words coming out of your mouth, people know. People feel it. People read in authenticity. This is the thing I'm always saying to people. Your energy never lies. So that's what people are really picking up on. It's like someone in a room. We've all been in a room with somebody who's talking the talk, and you can just tell they don't believe a word that they're talking about right now, you know? So your energy never lies. And that's what I'm always saying. Like, I'm not a fan of things like fake it till you make it. I'm just not. I haven't been. I've been talking about this for years. I think it's a ludicrous concept. Think of the word fake. If you're constantly telling yourself you're faking something, there's no confidence there. You know, there's no, like, when we think about the power of words, you're not faking anything. Maxwell Maltz, the famous psychologist, when he was doing all his writing, used to say, you can never outperform your self-esteem, but you can change it.
Yes. That's a great quote.
We need to really work on shifting our own energy, because let's face it, our self-esteem is all about energy. Confidence is an energy, right? Feeling good is an energy. Eating well to feel good is an energy. Moving our body to feel good is an energy. Speaking good about ourselves is an energy, right? It's all energy in motion. That's what emotions are, energy in motion. I remember I heard Joe Dispenza say that years ago for the first time. And I was like, oh my gosh, that makes so much sense. Emotions, energy in motion. They're just energy. So I always go back, I distill it down to energy again. And I'm saying, like, when you gossip, when you bitch about people, when you talk about people, it doesn't feel good in your body. Listen to that. When we celebrate people, when we celebrate people's successes, when we're happy for people, it feels good in your body, right? Listen to your body. Like, your body is always speaking to you. So for me, language is incredibly important, incredibly important. And I have something that I put in my book, Minding Mom, 7 years ago, which was a little thing called Stop, Catch, Change. And it's something that became a mantra for me out of pure necessity. I suffered postpartum when my baby was born. I literally lived in a mind that was a nightmare. Like, my mind was like akin to a torture chamber. It felt like it was just constantly berating me, telling me all the things I wasn't doing as a new mom, that I just wasn't enough. How come everybody else was coping and you're shit at this? And it was just constant. And I felt like I was in this tumble dryer, right, that I couldn't escape from. And I remember being in the car one day and actually putting my hand out and going, stop, 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 enough. Like, this has got to stop. And I said to myself, you have to catch that and you have to start changing it. And that's where Stop, Catch, Change was born. And I've used it for years and years. And it's interesting because years after I started that, I went to UCLA to study mindfulness, the Semel Institute of Neuroscience. And I was talking to a couple of people and reading the neurosciences books and talking to neuroscientists. And they were like, oh, that's actually something that we do to get people to enter patterns. And I'm like, oh, I came up with that myself, actually, just pure desperation, right?
Yes.
So what it is from a neuroscience perspective is that we need to enter patterns. We are in patterns of behavior that run the show. They just do. Right? Yes. If we don't become aware of them and we don't interrupt them, they're going to continue to run the show. That's just fact, okay? And if we take our eye off the ball, if we're not present and aware, they're going to take us back down the well-worn path. And I always say, it's like if you go to your local state park and you're going to go for a hike, and they'll give you a map on the way in, and they'll give you all the hiking trails. And you get to the first hiking trail, and there's a path to your right that you can clearly see everybody walks down every day, right? It's the well-worn path. But there's a couple of other paths here. One that you can tell a few people have gone down, but not that many. And here, maybe one person, but you can see a potential for a new path here. Now, your brain, when you're trying to make behavioral change or change habits in any shape or form, will go boom, ba-doom, ba-doom. Nope, I want to go down the well-worn path. And at that point here, this is your job to go, stop, catch, change. We're going a new way today. So you don't just do that once. You have to do that 10, 20, hundreds of times until your brain goes, okay, now we're going the new way. Okay, now we're going the new way. But let me tell you about behavior change. Like, if you don't keep your eye, you might have gone down this path 300 times and you don't have your eye on the ball and you're not paying attention. And before you know it, you're back down this path again. So that's why living with awareness is one of the most important things that we can do every single day. It's a different way of living. It's a different way of being. It's a different quality of living. I say that from someone who struggled with depression, anxiety, had addictions for many, many years, was heavily medicated for all of those things, and now lives a very different life, right? So I don't speak from a place of, telling someone what to do. I speak from a place of, this is what I have experienced. And let me tell you, changing your life, really becoming mindful of your words and understanding how to create new neural pathways, understanding that your brain always wants to keep you safe, right? If we can just understand that. And so we don't get so annoyed with ourselves, because people get so frustrated when they try to do the work, when they start doing any personal work, they get so frustrated. Like,
isn't that the point of our will too, though? Like, you know, like, because we use our will in ways that aren't healthy, but that point, like what you're saying there, that point is, if that's the correct use of our will is so powerful when we decide to use it. It's like, it really has power.
And it has to be our decision, our intention. It's got to do with discipline and consistency. Like, for me, discipline and consistency, like, are the kings and queens. They rule the roost, right? Because without it, real change doesn't happen. It's like when I was deciding to change or interrupt habits, I had stop, catch, change on Post-it notes. I had different affirmations. Like, I had to have a Post-it note beside my bed to remind me to drink a glass of lemon water in the morning. Like, that was one thing I was trying to do. And if I didn't have the Post-it note there, I'd be like, oh my God, I forgot again. So we have to train ourselves into a different way. Now I just get up, I meditate, or do whatever. Like, that's my morning routine. Like, my system just knows I love entering my day in peace and calm. But I think it's so fabulous when we learn to work with the brain, when we think, I know what you're trying to do. Thank you. But we're going to go this way, and just be a little bit lighter with ourselves, right? We're always beating ourselves up. We're so hard on ourselves, especially our young people. I hear it all the time. You know, it's just constantly beating ourselves up. And it doesn't help when people are comparing themselves on social media and, you know, everybody's life is better than mine. And, you know, we have all of these different, we've so much more. I mean, when I think, when I was younger, there was no social media when I started modeling. I'm 44 now. So when I was 15, there was no mobile phones, there was no social media, there was nothing like that. Like, that industry was hard enough without all of that. I can't even imagine having the pressure of the extra pressure of the comparison stuff on social media and everything. It's just, I think we've got to live with these things. And I think everything's great in moderation, and social media is brilliant for what we're doing now. We would never have gotten to connect and doing things like this across continents. It's fabulous. But the one thing I always say to people is, if you're not feeling good, stay off social media.
Yeah. Don't give it your power. Actually, I woke up this morning thinking about that, because I was thinking how when we create a relationship with something or someone, even if it's a phone, we need to be aware to keep the empowerment in our own body, because often what happens is we start to give that personal thing the power. So that's what happens with phones. You know, like I see a lot of kids that the phone becomes the power holder in the relationship. And so everything it's saying and doing, it's such an influence, you know. So yeah, it's the balance. It's actually really the relationship that you have with yourself, and making sure that that's strong enough and you know, and firm enough, and you're empowered enough in your body. You have a great connection with yourself so that you can cope with and create healthy relationships with everything else. So
I wish that we were taught that from an early age, the importance of developing your relationship with yourself. I wish that was like on every school curriculum. And I always,
education.
But even
the
one thing like that I always say to people is, the only relationship that's constant from birth till death is the one with yourself. The only one. Like, if we think about it, we're born into a family, we get raised, and then we leave that family, right? I mean, not forever, but, you know, we leave and we move on, and then we might create our own family and have a partner. We could have our own kids, but those kids grow up and then they move on. So the only relationship you're with all the time is the one with you. So does it not make sense to work on that relationship?
Yeah.
And
to love it and to honor it.
Because if you truly know and love yourself, all of the relationships become so much easier, right? And that's something we've been speaking about lately. And it's an ever-evolving part of my own personal evolution, right? Is to truly understand, fully accepting all of who we are, right? Like, not being scared of the more difficult emotions. Like, for years when I was younger, you know, I'd say I'm not feeling well, or I'm depressed, or I'm a bit anxious. And you go to the doctor, the psychiatrist, the therapist, whatever it was. And, let me tell you, I had the best of them all over the world doing my job. And it was just very interesting thinking back on my whole career. Not one person asked me about my lifestyle. Not one of them spoke to each other either, which I think is hilarious now. You know, how can you treat different aspects of somebody separately? How? Like, it's so ridiculous, right? And the whole kind of messaging that I got, because this is how I interpreted it, was if you can't get rid of those emotions by yourself and those feelings, well, we have to medicate them away. Like, we have to then get rid of them for you. Not like, what is it that's causing that feeling in you? Like, you know, fear, for example, is something we need to have a healthy relationship with, because if we're in danger, we need to be able to tune in to that energy, right? To feel the fear if we're actually out and about. So every single emotion has a purpose. Every single one. It reminds me of that movie. Is it Inside Out?
Yeah, it's so great, isn't it?
It's an absolutely brilliant movie, because it reminds me of, like, you know, it's what we do in life is we're having a dinner party, and happiness and joy and peace and love, they're all invited, you know, and then sadness knocks at the door, and he's like, but they're always invited. Why am I invited?
Yeah.
Be at the table, right? And it's like, sometimes when you're sad, it has some really important information for you about what's going on and what you're processing and the world around you and who you're becoming and what you're letting go of and what you're welcoming in. And like, we're very complex beings. It's not about, years ago, I used to say, wow, I really felt like 50% of me had to be killed. You know, that's the message I got, you know, and that's why we need to keep medicating it, because there's something wrong with you. You know, like, you're sad and you're anxious, and, you know, so if this medication's not working, we give you more of this. And I called it quits on all of that when my son was a baby, because I just realized the complete lunacy of the cycle I was in, and how, you know, the only answer was big pharma and more medication. And it wasn't about, like, my growth and the fact that I just didn't feel comfortable in the world, and I actually didn't really have a very strong sense of self, and I was deeply insecure at times, and I was traveling the world on my own, right? And there was a lot of fear, and there was a lot of loneliness, and there was a lot of normal human emotions that were coming up, right? That I had no tools in how to deal with. And that's why I went down the road of meditation and mindfulness, and I've been meditating since my teens, right? But even through that, the true purpose of meditation didn't really kick in until I was pregnant and I had my son, and I really leaned into my practice and understood the power of presence and just listening to myself, and actually listening to myself. Like, I do think, like, I have mentors and coaches, but a good mentor and coach will always bring you back to yourself, because we always have the answers within us, right? Like, so I'm not a big fan of telling people what to do, because I think when I was being told what to do as a child, my dad used to say to me, you would go left just because someone told you
I did that too. I did that too.
I was like, maybe I just knew the system sucked, right? And I was just like, there's something wrong with the system, which there is a lot wrong with the system, but that's a whole other conversation. So I think it's really interesting and really important to accept all of who we are. And that acceptance, for me, working on that acceptance through the years, has given me such a great sense of peace and contentment and connection, unlike anything I've ever felt before. Because if I'm sad, I allow myself to be sad. If I'm tired, I allow myself to be tired. If, you know, I'm having a shit day, I'm having a shit day. Like, I don't live in this unrealistic world anymore where I feel the need to be happy all the time, you know, because that was something that was a big thing for me when I entered the world of personal development, this desire, or this, you know, illusion that there was somewhere to get to, like that I was going to a place where I was going to be happy every day. But I can tell you, by letting go of that, by default, I'm happier most days.
Yeah.
It's
so
like
great.
It's like a byproduct. It's just like
and it just happens, right? So, well, also, I think that's our natural state, and what the way that we live, that is a normal for most human beings, is actually not our natural state, and it does have everything to do with our feelings and not separating from them, but to embrace them. because we are more powerful when we're whole and not separated. And so it is just such a powerful state. Aly, this has just like been the most juicy conversation. I love it. So I'm looking forward to hearing people's feedback on this conversation. But I would like to give you some time because you have a course coming up that you're running for free, which is such an opportunity for people to step in and get to know you and your work, because like you just have so much knowledge, so many different facets. And I mean, and knowing you and knowing what you do, it still blows me away that, you know, people can just be the emulation of so much wisdom, you know, and you're not pushing it out there, but you just are that. And I respect you so much for that. So I'm very encouraging of people to listen to what Aly's got on offer.
Well, I'm launching I have a website, AlisonCanavan.com, but I've been working on the new version of that where my program, The Power is in You, will be available for people. It's a 4-week program to buy and they can do it at their own pace. But I offer a free workshop once or twice a month called Envision Your Life. And I have one this Wednesday, and I will send the recording out after if people can't make it live. This is a great starting point to learn the art and science of transformation, to really understand the beginning of working with your word, right? So it's a workshop where I teach people how to create a vision statement. So a vision statement using the question, what would I love? What would I love if I handed you a magic wand today and said that nothing was standing in your way, and 3 years from now, you're living the life of your wildest dreams? What would I love? And I step people through a 3-step process during that. We look at your longings, your discontent. I show you how to write the vision statement. I give you time to do that. And then we do an embodiment phase of that workshop. So it's a really fun workshop, actually, where everybody leaves feeling inspired and invigorated, and that's amazing. And I also do some meditation classes during the week as well. I teach mindfulness meditation and heart-centered meditation. So group meditations, I think, are always one of the most powerful ways of really connecting with ourselves and doing that beautiful, deep, peaceful healing work, because we need community. That's one of the things at the moment that I keep saying in this world: community, community, community. They have tried to divide us and separate us for the last few years, and we really are understanding the power of human connection. When we come together, we really need each other. Like, we really do. We thrive in community. So join me for Envision Your Life. And you can get it on AlisonCanavan.com/classes, and join me in that first step of understanding dream building. And then I teach a 90-day program and walk people through how to actually take the steps to change. I always say to people, if you're at the stage where you're like, I keep looping, I call it looping and looping and looping in the same behavioral patterns and going around in circles, well, then it's very difficult to move beyond that without support. And that's from a personal perspective and a professional perspective. And I know this because I have a mentor at the moment and coaches, because you can't see yourself if you're in the picture. It's very difficult for you to see yourself when you're in the picture. So we've all got blind spots. And I think that having support as we make these life changes in whatever way that looks, and the same goes back to when getting sober and everything, you've got to have a structure of support in place, whatever that looks like for you. I just gave up sugar last week. I'm on day 7. So this is a perfect example of this. And I said to my Instagram community, I'm giving up sugar. Who would like to join me? And I had about 150 people. Quite a few dropped off Friday night. It was interesting to see what happens, right? As the weekend comes in. But the level of support and messages that I've been getting, and people sending me amazing videos and sugar and research and, boosting tips, and then some text messages from clients and previous things going, this strength in the community. And this morning I woke up to people going, are you still doing it? Like, I nearly had sugar. I nearly had sugar last night, blah, blah, blah. And I realized this morning, I've tried to kick sugar 5 or 6 times in the last few years. It's just something I've wanted to do for so long. It's my vice, right? I gave up coffee, I gave up alcohol, I gave up everything. So it's like sugar is my thing. But I also know it's something that's been causing inflammation. I know it's something that is just not good for my health. It causes low mood and all these different things. And it also is something that I use to numb emotions, right? So I'm well aware of all of those things, but it's like putting the support structure away. And it's interesting this week, I'm on day 7, how easy it has been, or easier, right? Because I had a terrible day on Friday, with the strength of community behind you. It's absolutely astonishing. You know, every time I
great,
was
isn't it?
traveling, I'd get a text or I'd see something on Instagram, and I'm like, never underestimate the power of community and coming together to support each other. It's so powerful.
That's so amazing. That's so good. And I love that the free course, like I'm thinking, you know, I need to do a vision board, and I've been thinking about doing that for quite a while, and I just haven't got the time. So I think I might come along, because it's like we don't find the time often as mums too when we're busy. But it's so nice to come together in a community and do something like that together. So I'm going to share that everywhere, because I think that's just such a fantastic, fantastic tool. I will also put the links for you guys in the post here, and the links to Aly's meditations. And I highly encourage you to connect with her. She's got a great Instagram account. I often see her doing really interesting things like skipping, and like so inspiring. And I go, oh, I'd love to go.
Whenever it is this weekend, we're doing no sugar at the moment, so it's interesting. So I'm testing out different meals and keeping my blood sugar balanced. And, you know, because when we're working all day and we're busy moms and stuff, one of the things we can do is skip meals, right? So I'm noticing that curbing the sugar cravings for me is about balancing my blood sugar and not missing a meal. And when I do that, nothing's a problem. Very interesting. It's just like,
wow, that's great.
yeah. So this
So
is all
good.
about getting to know yourself as well. So you can always jump on the no sugar with me too, because I'm going to keep doing it. It's going to be for minimum 40 days, but I'm hoping I can just stay off it then after that, which would be great.
Yeah, that'd be amazing. Well, best of luck with that. I might aspire to do that soon too. Thank you everyone for watching. It's been a fantastic conversation. Thank you, Aly, so much. I have learned so much and really enjoyed the topic, and I look forward to chatting with you again soon.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone. Bye.